Before we get to today's episode of 5 on the Floor, make sure you check out one of the great sponsors of this podcast and the other podcasts in the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that is AutoNation. They're the largest auto retailer from coast to coast, and their friendly and knowledgeable staff here in South Florida will help you save big on a huge selection of new cars, trucks, and SUVs. Toyota, Honda, Chevrolet, Mercedes-Benz, and much more. And if you're looking to buy pre-owned, shop AutoNation's huge selection of one-price pre-owned vehicles, all clearly marked with one price, the lowest price guaranteed. Or if you just want to get rid of that old car, turn it into cash today, get a top dollar offer, and a check the same day. They'll buy your car with no purchase necessary. Your check engine light on right now. Get the services you need at low AutoNation prices. Oil changes, tires, batteries, and more, all for less. Call or visit AutoNation.com to schedule your appointment today. All right, but here's the thing. I used to say that a lot. If you're in the market for a new car, make sure you DM me at 5 Reasons Sports on Twitter. That's the number 5 Reasons Sports. I will give an AutoNation senior manager your information, with your permission, so they can reach out to you directly and walk you through the buying process. So no waiting online, no getting lost in the sauce or any of that stuff. An AutoNation senior manager will reach out to you directly. And now,
welcome to 5 on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast from Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, aka Alf954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
welcome into the latest episode of the 5 on the Floor podcast on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can find me at Ethan J. Skolnick or at 5 Reasons Sports. And I'm with Alphonse Sidney. You can find him at 954 at Alf954 arguing with Sixers fans. Yeah, everyone knows where you are. Arguing with Sixers fans. And by the way, if you don't like Sixers fans, we got a new T-shirt on the website. Go check it out. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. It's so cool. 5reasonsports.com. Our guy Adam Smoot, Ballscast. He's our branding marketing guru, and it's a really cool fucking shirt, right?
I put it out on Twitter, and I'm dead ass serious. Because we will be hosting at least 4. We said 4, right? 4 Heat watch parties.
Yeah, 4, which means they'll lose all 4 games. Although
so
5 on the Floor has never hosted one, right? So we're gonna blame that. We're gonna blame that on Heat Beat.
Yeah, Heat Beat and 5 Reasons, but 5 on the Floor. So far, we're undefeated,
right?
Because we haven't sponsored anything.
Right.
But I will be buying drinks for anybody who's wearing that shirt because that shirt kicks ass.
Yeah, it does. Although some people have a criticism of it because they say that Smoot should have made it in the. You'll see when you see the shirt. They should. I'm trying to send people the site that it's supposed to be 305, I guess, and I don't even think Adam thought of that, but it's a really cool shirt.
It wouldn't have gone right with the 305.
It wouldn't have worked. But it basically mocks the process and touts the Heat's accomplishments. And yeah, you should buy a few because we need to keep this thing in business. But today we're going to talk about, we're looking for content. We've got about 3 weeks till training camp. The only Heat news is that I'm not going to the freaking Bahamas because the Heat typically every other year have been going to the Bahamas. You're only allowed to go out of out of sort of your area, I believe it is, or out of the country every other year. And so they were at FAU last year, so I thought there was a possibility to go to the Bahamas. They're not going back to FAU and Boca. Check out our new FAU podcast, by the way, Shulabo Pod with FIU. But they are going to Palm Beach County. They're apparently closing on a deal with Kaiser. I guess it's Kaiser College, Kaiser University. It's up in West Palm Beach, kind of close to the airport.
That recession is killing them.
Yeah, well, so they're heading up there, which means I guess I'll be up there for a couple of days. We'll have content from there, but it looks like they like to get away. They have everything they need in their facility in American Airlines Arena, but the whole idea of this is get away from the families, get away from the hangers-on, get away from South Beach and all that, and go to a place where it's just the team. So they're going to trek up to West Palm. Typically, again, they go to FAU and they stay at the Boca Hotel, but assume they'll just find a hotel up in West Palm, or
and most people from Miami think of West Palm Beach as a whole nother country. So
it kind of is. I mean, I lived up there for a little while. I mean, Palm Beach is a whole nother country. And my guess is that they'll probably end up staying at the Breakers or the Four Seasons or something.
Not the Trump.
I would hope not. Well, I don't. There's look. First,
if
thing,
it's by the airport, that's very close to the Trump golf course.
I know, and I don't. Knowing the politics of most of the guys on the team, with the exception of the team president, I don't think that they would actually venture over there. So that would be my guess. And
I want to see Udonis at the Trump.
You know what? You know what's interesting with Udonis is he doesn't get involved in politics. There was an opportunity for him that I actually discussed with him last year for a candidate. I'm not going to get into which candidate, but there was a candidate that seemed a natural fit for him and was trying to kind of get him to come to an event. And he said, I don't do the politics thing. He used to say that I kind of know what his politics are, but he just doesn't do it publicly. He used to say that he would be the mayor of Miami at some point, but he has since gone back from that. And it does raise an interesting question. Who is the real mayor of Miami? Is it him? Is it Pitbull, Rick Ross, Uncle Luke, or Trick Daddy? I actually polled this, and UD won, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, you skew towards Heat fans,
right? Right, but Trick Daddy was second, actually.
He's not corrupt enough to be the mayor of Miami, so.
That's true. There is a certain level of corruption that's necessary. By the way, is every place that David Beckham's going to try to take a soccer team going to have, like, arsenic underneath? This is what is it about Miami? I mean,
listen, I've dealt with city investigators and county investigators in Miami for years. I'm not surprised.
No.
I'm just surprised that somebody actually found it.
Right. Well, not that they found it, that they reported it, right? Like,
because usually a palm would get greased before that ever hit the news. But
correct.
Listen,
correct.
Like maybe we're turning a corner.
We're not. We're not. All right. So let's get to the basketball here today, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to break this down into 2 episodes. In part because, thank you, we've got a lot of new sponsors, and so we want to make sure we take care of them and make sure you check them out. Yeah, thank you, AutoNation. Again, I'm going to repeat this. This is a great opportunity for you and for us. If you want a new car, DM me directly at 5 Reasons Sports. A manager will get right back to you. Okay, so this is a cool opportunity. So make sure you check that out. But what I wanted to get to here, we're going to split this into backcourt and frontcourt. And I just want to and then we're going to kind of grade where they are on a curve in the league. So let's start with the backcourt. We're going to do that today. The frontcourt will be next. And here are the players that could be involved in the Heat's backcourt. Justise Winslow, provided you consider him a guard. Goran Dragic, Dion Waiters, Tyler Herro. That's 4. And who am I missing off the top of my head? I'm not counting Jimmy Butler as a 2. I know that's.
I think he's playing small forward on this team.
I think so too for now. And Derek Jones also, I think, is playing one of the 2 forward spots. So I'm not going to include him either. Kendrick Nunn is another one who kind of fits into this category. But is there? I'm sorry, blanking off the top of my head. It's those 5, correct? Is there somebody else?
I don't think there's anyone else that you can consider at the 2 guard or the point guard position, which is funny because last year there was there was an everlasting list of 2 guards on this team. And now, but which is actually nice. It's nice to have the rotation a little bit more defined.
Yeah, it is.
Still not defined.
It is, and you know, right, you said there were 6 2 guards on the roster at one point last year. If you considered Rodney Magruder a 2, you had Dwayne, you had Dion, you had Tyler Johnson. Again, you had Rodney. And now I'm blanking on
Wayne Ellington.
Wayne Ellington was one who was dispatched. So you had Goran. Well, Goran was the one, but you had just had
a ton of guards.
A ton of guards.
No true point guard.
No true point guard. Well, right, when Goran was hurt, especially. Again, depending on how you characterize Goran. So now the glut has been cleared out, and I had put this on Twitter a little while ago about kind of how this is going to play out with the starters. And this could go a number of different ways. We could be looking at back to, I doubt this because I think Justise is going to start somewhere, but we could go back to the 7-11 combination of Goran and Dion that was so effective. It seems like forever ago, but you go back to the 16-17 season, right? So especially the second half of it. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is Justise and Goran together. I don't think that's a real likelihood because then you don't have a backup point guard unless you're trusting Kendrick Nunn to be that backup point guard. Another possibility is Justise and Dion together. That's one that our friend Nikias Duncan hates. But I think that there's a possibility that actually happens if they turn over the reins to Justise and they say that Goran Dragic is going to be the backup point guard / 6th man and get a lot of the minutes that Dwayne got, kind of soak those up from the bench. The other option is they just start the kid, that they start Tyler Herro next to either Justise or Goran. I think it's more likely with Justise than Goran, to be honest, just in terms of having size in the backcourt.
If you're going to go young, go young. Also, you're right, size in the backcourt.
Right.
you want 6'7" Justice out there at point guard if you're going to have Tyler Herro out there.
And I'll say this about Tyler Herro, having stood next to him a handful of times now in Vegas and elsewhere, is he's taller than I expected. I know that sounds crazy when you have a guy that's listing. You're like, well, you know how tall he is. But we know that a lot of that is not legit, right? Like Dwayne early in his career was listed at what, 6'4", 6'5", and if you stood next to Dwayne, he told you he was 6'2.5", right? So there is there is kind of a lot of sort of fibbing that goes on there, and obviously they get checked at the the Combine and all that.
I think with Tyler, the problem is the wingspan, right?
Oh yeah, but can we? Okay, so the wingspan thing. I mean,
Please, this is the Nikias, the big Nikias.
I know, and you and I talked about it the night he was drafted. I think sometimes we overstate this. It's like offensive linemen in the NFL with short arms. Like that was the big thing. Like I don't know if you remember, he played left tackle for the Dolphins for a while. Mark Dixon, they got him out of the CFL. That's all you ever heard about Mark Dixon. His arms are too short to play left tackle. He still kicked ass there. He was really good there for 2 years. I think
hand size with quarterbacks.
Hand size with quarterbacks. I mean, Breeze supposedly doesn't have real big hands for quarterback. He's done okay. I think we're overstating that. Can he play or can he not play? And I think Tyler Herro.
Look at that. When's the last time you heard anything about Tyler Herro's wingspan? Like no one gives a shit anymore because they saw the kid play.
Right. So he's playing. And the other thing about it, they've seen him not only play, but we've seen him I've never seen somebody embrace quote unquote heat culture from the jump. I mean, Riley's already given him a 10-year extension for embracing heat culture because I mean it's amazing. Like the guy is he's posting all kinds of stuff. I said this on a recent pod with you. Like I've never seen a player go from nobody wants him to everybody is in love with him like this guy has.
Untouchable in trade.
Right, without playing a real game. It's fascinating, and he's really good at social media, as, by the way, is Myers Leonard. So both of them have kind of attracted themselves to Heat fans.
Myers Leonard and L. Leonard are the first first man and lady of Miami right now. Like, if you follow them on social media, they are amazing.
They're very likable. I think that, and look, Hassan was fun on social media. But you knew that a lot of fun, okay? I was talking to Fish, but you knew, but you knew kind of the backstory, which was that that wasn't the personality he often took to the team. All the stuff about Myers Leonard seems to be very positive, and with Herro it seems to be very positive. He has a cocky streak. I don't have a problem with that, and I guess the question is just how quickly they rush him. So let's look at some of the different combinations. Like I said, it's been thinned out. If they were to go with first thing, what should they do with Goran? Because I feel like that is we can talk Herro, but I feel like that's the core question here, right? Like, do they still view Goran Dragic as a starting point guard at 32 to 34 minutes per game? Because if they do, it affects everything else. And I don't know if they still do.
I don't think you can anymore, right? And I've always loved Goran Dragic. I love his game, right? But with the other players on the team, when you look at the rest, when you look at Jimmy Butler and you look at the other guys around him, you want and I'm not saying Justice is necessarily a pass-first point guard, but he kind of is. He looks to create for others before he creates for himself. With Goran looks for himself first, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it just doesn't lend itself to what I think the Heat would like to do this year with a lot of young legs. A lot of up and down the court. When you talk about having guys like Bam, Jimmy, and Justice wreaking havoc all over the court defensively, hopefully creating turnovers and running the other way. Yeah, Goran's great at that, but at the same time, Goran's great at that just for mostly for himself, right? So when you look at the starting lineup, to me, it just makes the most sense for it to be Justice and Dion, and then let Herro prove himself, and maybe eventually he works himself into that starting two-guard position. And because it makes so much sense to me right now for Goran Dragic to play that Manu Ginobili role almost. Come off the bench, score a bunch of points in limited minutes, keep his legs super fresh, and hopefully if they keep him around after the trade deadline, which I'm starting to doubt, but if they do, and you do get into the playoffs, you have a fresh Goran Dragic coming off the bench, right? With a second unit where he can dominate the ball with guys like James Johnson, Myers Leonard, Kendrick Nunn, whoever you want to put him out there with, Aspala, if he even plays this year. and he can dominate the ball, score you points, play his game the way he wants to play it, but also doesn't get in the way of the development of the rest of the guys on the team.
Mm-hmm. No, and I'm with you on that. And I think we had to frame this as not what Goran can't still do, but what he can still do, right? So, like you said, this isn't a knock against Goran to say he'd be a great sixth man, because he was a sixth man early in his career, playing behind Nash. I think we saw it last year before he kind of ran out of gas at the end of the season. But running out of gas is part of the reason why I think this makes sense, right? Because I think he can sustain it more if he gets in the rhythm like Dwayne did last year of being a sixth man and basically handling both guard spots. Like you said, he creates more for himself than for others. And that can be a natural role where that's a positive instead of a negative. The fact that you have a guy off the bench who can get you 17 in 23 minutes when you need it on a team that may still struggle to score a little bit. We had David Thorpe on, and yeah, Jimmy changes the equation, but they're still short a scorer. And so if you have Goran, who's is going to be playing against second units that can't really guard him, if he's lost half a step, it's not quite as big a deal. That's why I think it makes sense. The other reason it makes sense, and we'll get to the two-guard spot. The other reason it makes sense is you just have to turn the reins over to Justise at this point, whether he's going to be with you long-term or not. So we can still talk about Bradley Beal and where that might go. And I saw Barry had a piece about that today. And I do pay the Herald subscription strictly for him. But we'll see. But basically, basically,
are you gonna pick him up too? Anyway.
Well, we'll see. I can't pay Barry enough. I can't. I Barry's worth too much. But there'll be others that join us eventually. If you're looking for a new place to hang out on the weekends, you got to check out the High at Magic City. They just opened in July, and it's a pretty awesome experience. They're putting a brand new spin on what you know about if you've been down here in Miami, which is High Lie. They've got unbeatable drink specials, a live DJ, an indoor lawn game area, of course, that live High Lie, and so much more. The High is going to be Miami's newest hotspot going forward. On Friday and Saturday nights, we're going to be taping some podcasts out there. 5 on the Floor, Ballscast, also 5 Rings, Canes. So mark your calendars to live the high life Friday and Saturday nights down here in South Florida. But yeah, I just, when I look at Justice's situation, he's got to be handed the reins from the beginning. And I just don't like the combination of him and Goran as starters, because I know what's going to happen there, which is what happened to Goran in reverse when he was playing with Dwayne, which is that, one of the two guys is just not going to get the ball enough. And so if Justise is not getting the ball enough, then he's not in a position to grow his game and contribute that way. And he needs to play and he doesn't have to guard the opposing point guard. In a lot of cases, he won't. He'll guard up. But I just think he needs to start from the beginning. And then, so then you go to the two-guard spot. The problem with it is not Justise starting. I think that's what should happen, and I don't think it should be with Goran. The problem with it is I don't like him and Dion together. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, maybe they're trying to figure out, how quickly does Tyler Herro make progress? So like you said, they just go with the two kids from the very beginning of the season. Because if you're going to start him with, and we already know there's a chemistry between Dion and Goran. Like, whatever you think of, and look, Dion may view himself as a 35-minute a game player, and maybe he is again with with the shape he's gotten himself into. Maybe he is. If the ankle's healthy, attitude's right. I don't like low efficiency players, but he did shoot the ball well from 3 at the end of last year. He views himself as more than that. But if you have the two kids starting, it's never really always been about who starts for Spoelstra. It's who finishes. If you have the two kids starting, but you bring Goran and Dion off the bench together, that might be the best backcourt in the league. It's certainly in the conversation.
So I got a couple things. When it comes to Dion, right? Dion's game isn't necessarily the problem. It's what happens a lot of the time, and we saw it a lot last year, and it's very frustrating to watch. Is Justise has a handle on the offense, and then for some reason, for 3, 4, 5 straight possessions, Dion Waiters or James Johnson takes over the ball, and Justise is sitting around. I think Jimmy and Justise will play very well together. But when it comes to Dion, if Dion can somehow play his role as far as playing next to Justise, Dion, get to where you need to be, and Justise will find you. And then you could create as a secondary option, not bringing the ball up, not controlling the offense, not initiating. It felt like every time the Heat's offense got bogged down is when someone took the ball out of Justice's hands and decided they were going to initiate on their own. Let Justice initiate. And right now you have Justice and you have Jimmy. After those, when those two are on the floor, nobody else should be initiating offense.
Well, they're also going to be running some offense through Bam or Olynyk.
But but here's the thing. What I loved about Justice is Justice will get you into offense early.
Right.
Which is one of the biggest problems with when Tyler Johnson was running point, when Josh Richardson was running point.
Yeah. Josh especially. Yeah.
Oh my God. You would not get into offense till 12 seconds left on the shot clock.
Right.
Justice gets you into offense early, it's not that Justice is this great point guard, that he's this dynamic passer, which he is a very good passer. What Justice does is get you into offense early and makes quick decisions, which is why I want the ball in his hands, because he's not necessarily looking to score because he has the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Dion, James Johnson, these guys are looking to score as they bring the ball up the court, which sometimes causes hesitation. It causes the offense to bog down while they're looking for space, for lanes. As long as Dion can stay away from that part of his game, which you covered him for a long time, I don't know if that's humanly possible, but he did it in Oklahoma City. But I think part of the reason he could do it in Oklahoma City is because he had a deference to the players that he was playing with.
Right. That's you hit on it. It's a respect thing for him, right? And so, I covered him in Cleveland that year before he got bounced because, he wasn't even getting the ball anymore because LeBron and Kyrie had enough. Kyrie and him never really clicked in any personal way or any other way. And that was a problem behind the scenes. But, and he was the fourth option there. Here he's going to come back and view himself as the first option. He just is because maybe the co-first option with Jimmy, but
I'm hoping that the Jimmy's presence helps that a lot because remember he didn't play with Dwayne that much at all.
No, it didn't work. We knew it wouldn't work. It was just not going to work. And I look, I don't have a problem with Dion getting a lot of minutes. I just don't love it as a starter next to Justice because I don't think he's going to be able to do what you're saying. I just don't. I think there's going to be possessions that he just hijacks because it's part of his game. And it's funny. We kind of give Goran a pass on that. We both say, well, it's just his game that he doesn't get other guys involved as much. Well, it's just Dion's game that he doesn't. He may be a decent efficiency player if he's shooting the ball well from three. But as we said, what happened last year was he's jacking up a bunch of threes and he's making some, which is great. Okay, he's making at a reasonably high rate, but nobody else is involved, and so everybody else gets out of the offense completely, and that does have collateral damage. And I don't know. Putting him next to Justice with Jimmy, it's like it's three guys who need the ball. And Jimmy's usage rate is not as high as most superstars, but it's high enough. I don't know how that works.
I get it, but the thing is, I like the fact that Dion is a good catch and shoot player, but he doesn't want to catch and shoot.
Right.
Now, and the thing is, the reason that Goran gets a pass is because Goran is a much more efficient player. Just like you said before, and I'm with you on that. I think our Iverson conversations kind of put us in the same place. That we don't like inefficient, high-volume players.
Right.
But Goran finishes at the rim. And now, listen, it's not at the clip he was 2 or 3 years ago, but Goran still finishes at the rim at a higher rate than Dion. And we saw that when Dion –
Well, Dion wasn't even going to the basket last year. Now, whether he can when he's healthy, his numbers in terms of attacks to the rim were way down from where they were during the 16-17 season.
30 and 11. Goran and Dion were attacking the paint constantly.
Well, that whole offense was attack and splash it out to the wings. Like that was the whole thing. It was so. Look, I just don't see it as a combination. But I also think, there's two factors that are going to come into play here. One is how quickly they feel Herro's ready, and two is ego. And can you get Dion and Goran, particularly Dion? I think Goran will get it a little more. But and Goran's older, Dion's younger. Dion's still playing for another contract. You and I've talked about that, like not this year, but the year after. Goran is too, but he's in his 30s. He's a more mature individual at this point of his life, right? And that again, that's nothing against Dion, but it's just Goran's been around a lot longer. And so can you get the two of them to buy into that? We're going to bring 7-11 off the bench. We're going to do what Dwayne did. And what I've said repeatedly is I don't know how anybody in this organization can ever argue with that again after the greatest player, and maybe not the greatest player in franchise because LeBron's the greatest player, but the greatest contributor to the Heat franchise ever did it. Like how if you're Dion in particular, but also Goran, like argue with the idea of coming off the bench and giving your team something unique in that way when you just saw 3 do it.
Dwayne did it. Zoe did it.
Right. Well, even other guys they didn't think would do it. Antoine Walker did it. Remember for a lot of the championship season behind Posey. I mean, they've had guys do this repeatedly. Dan Marley did it for a little while.
Daddy said he had to eat a shit sandwich. Like
right. But these guys did it. And they came off the bench and look, Ray Allen did it. Another Hall of Fame. How many Hall of Famers have the Heat had who've come off the bench regularly? Ray Allen, Dwayne Wade, Gary Payton, Alonzo Mourning, Antoine Walker in his own mind. Who else? Right? That's 4.
They've had guys. Shane came off the bench.
Right. So how do you make an argument, that you're too big to come off the bench? Goran won't make that argument. Now, Goran last year did say, when he was working back from injury, that he expected to be a starter again when he got healthy. I think Goran's very proud. He's one of my favorite people I've covered. I really like Goran personally a lot. He's very proud, as all great athletes are. He's also happens to be, one of the top 5 most famous people from his country. Okay. And so, right. No, it's true. I mean, obviously, whatever her name is in the White House. And then, right. And then the Kopitar. No, maybe. Kellyanne Conway. And then maybe, Kopitar. Right. Yeah. She's not there anymore.
Luka Doncic at this point.
Yeah, Luka Doncic and whatever her name is in the White House, chain migration. And so, right? So he's a big star. So there's an ego there, but it's not a toxic ego from Goran. It's just he believes, that he's a really, really good player and he's a starting point guard in the league, and he is. But I think there'll be a little bit.
Is he?
A starting point guard in the league? Yes, he's one of the top 30 point guards in the NBA. Is he not still? You're not going to get to 30 before you get to Goran. I don't think you get to 20. You think you get to 20? He was an all-star 2 years ago.
I know, but I'm talking about Goran Dragic right now.
I think.
What team does he start on?
That's another exercise. What teams does he start on? Okay. Oh boy. All right. Well, no, I'm just trying to go through the list in my head. Okay, not Boston, not Philly, not Toronto, probably at this stage.
Not Milwaukee.
New York.
I mean, okay.
New York, Washington.
Wait, who's the starter on Washington right now?
Isaiah Thomas. Charlotte. Right. Kemba's not there anymore. Orlando.
Okay.
We're at 4 or 5 at least.
All right.
Dallas. Okay. So what are we at? 6. Denver, maybe.
No.
Maybe. No, you say no. Yeah, I can agree with you on that. Utah probably not with Memphis. Without him there, the Lakers. Okay, New Orleans is because if I don't know LeBron, but yeah, if it's not LeBron, Drew Holiday Drew Holiday's not the point. It's Lonzo Ball's the point guard in New Orleans, right? So
he wouldn't start over Lonzo.
Right now.
No, you don't start Goran Dragic over Alonzo.
It depends what kind of team you have.
Who's a better player? Goran Dragic. But if you have a young team, you're not starting him over Lonzo Ball.
Oh, okay, that's fair. What about does he start over Bledsoe?
No.
Bledsoe was awful at the end of the playoffs. But yeah, okay. I mean, what are we at? 7, 8? How many we're at?
I mean, basically, you're saying that Goran Dragic.
Detroit. I start him over Reggie Jackson. I don't like Reggie Jackson's game.
But you're saying
Indiana,
the dregs of the league.
I've just gotten to 10. Indiana's not a dreg of the league. Detroit might be a playoff team. Orlando might be a playoff team. Indiana. Who's the point guard in Indiana? Collison's gone. I can't even remember. Who do they bring in?
See, that's the problem. There's been so much movement.
Yeah, but it's not anybody elite though.
No.
No. Oh, I know who it is. It's Brogdon.
Brogdon, yeah. He doesn't start over Brogdon.
Right now, I'd start over Brogdon.
No.
I think Brogdon's
you can't.
I like Brogdon, but I think he's a core rotation piece on a good team. He's not going to be a high level point guard as a starter. You think so? They paid him like one, but I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean,
Minnesota, Jeff Teague.
No, I started Jeff Teague.
No, I would not.
No.
No. Not. You'd say not this Goran Dragic, not this Jeff Teague. Playoff Teague is gone. His numbers the last 2 years are not good. So what are we at? 10, 11? You put
Okay,
Goran in
so yeah, you're right.
and it's not all dregs of the league. So yeah, you'd put him in the top 20. You don't start him in Sacramento over Fox. You don't start him. You mentioned Denver, Utah, Houston, OKC. I guess Chris Paul's the point guard.
Yeah.
So I mean, God knows.
Golden State has 2 of them.
Yeah, we're not counting them. The Nets, we don't count them. So yeah, but I think you can make a reasonable case that he's still a top 20 point guard. But it doesn't necessarily mean he's the right point guard for this team at this time. But I don't want to frame this as a negative. I want to frame this as a positive in the sense that what he can provide, what Dion can provide off the bench, would be an elite backup guard position. And Spoelstra loves rolling that stuff like that.
So if he's a top 20 point guard, if he's a top 20 point guard, what is it as a backup point guard? Where does that put him in the league?
He's top 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but that's
that's both of our points.
I mean, he's a 6 man of the year candidate. Like, I mean, yeah. Okay. So who are the top 6 men in the league? Okay, Lou Williams. All right. Who else? I mean, off the top of your head. I mean, I don't know how some rosters are going to shake out, but there's nobody in Houston. There's nobody in Philly. Golden State. D'Angelo's going to start at the start of the season, so you can't count him. I don't think there's anybody in Brooklyn. I don't think there's anybody in Indiana. I mean, who are we talking about? I mean, Utah's got a really loaded bench. Denver's got a loaded bench. I don't see a 6 man of the year candidate necessarily. He's a top 3 backup point guard in the league, and he's a top 3 backup guard in the league. He's a 6 man of the year candidate. Like you're
talking about D'Angelo Russell.
But he's not. But he's not. But he's not. He's going to be a starter until March, right? So you can't count him.
Fred Van Vliet, whatever. Van Vliet.
Yeah, we got to pronounce his name right first. No. Right? So
he would be one of the best. I mean, at least top 5, just off the top of my head. Right. Top 5 backup point guards in the league.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's just I don't even understand. Not that I don't understand. Like, I understand that there's pride, there's personalities in those locker rooms involved. Like, there's a lot involved in it that just as a fan sitting on the sidelines. A lot of this shit is really easy for me to say because there's no consequences to the crap I say on the podcast. But
not yet.
It's simply your personal life.
Wait till the season.
well, yeah. When you start getting the phone calls, but nobody calls me, which is cool. But yeah, there's not the same consequences for me. But I just don't see how the Heat can move forward without Justise Winslow at the point. And I just don't, and I see a bench lineup eventually of Goran, Dion, whether it's Myers Leonard or Kelly Olynyk, Derek Jones Jr. and James Johnson as a backup 5. But that is
pretty good.
That's a damn good second unit.
No, it's a really and like I said, Spoelstra loves rolling second units, and I think one of the things that they'll do is get back to what they did during the big 3 years, which is make sure Jimmy's out there with 4 of them. And they used to do that with LeBron and with Dwayne, and they'd rotate it with Battier and Anderson and Cole and Allen. And I can see the same thing happening if they develop a bench unit. So I think what's happened here is like Spoelstra would always talk about, because he had to, our depth is our strength with his teams in recent years, but it was not really. The depth was a burden. It was everybody's the same damn guy. And so it was like who do you play?
There was no hierarchy.
There's no hierarchy. Who do you play this time and not play this time? It's much easier now. They'll have a strong bench, but it'll be very clear who the core guys are coming off that bench in the same way that it was during the big 3 years where it was the 4 guys that I mentioned and then sometimes a little Mike Miller. Like that is what they have to get back to. And that's why my thought process is where this needs to go. And I don't know how quickly it gets there, but is Winslow and Herro as the starters. That's where this needs to go. And then you have Dragic, you have Waiters, and then you have Kendrick Nunn in there. And then if you need a 2, Derek Jones can play some 2, particularly if he improves his 3-point shot. It gives you length on the wing.
You have a healthier James Johnson.
Right.
You have a Myers Leonard or Kelly Olynyk, whoever's not starting. Mm-hmm. Listen, you have a really strong second unit, and that's when, if you remember last year, that's when things really started to take shape.
Right.
When they were starting the kids, right? And then they had the backup. They had the backups. They had Hassan. They had Goran. They had Dwayne. And they had all these guys coming off the bench that can more than handle any other second unit in the league.
Yep.
That's when things started coming together.
Right. So I think that's where we head. So that's what we decided. It's going to be Winslow and Herro, maybe not in training camp. Maybe when they get out of
All-Star break.
By All-Star break. All right. Our next pod is going to be on the front court. We'll have more players to go through, and we'll get to them starting obviously with Jimmy and get into Bam and Olynyk and Derek Jones Jr. and James Johnson, all those guys who could figure into that. But make sure you check out 5reasonsports.com. Check out the other podcasts in our network. 5 Rings Canes. First episode with Larry Bluestein, who we were really excited to add to our roster, and Alex Dono, also really excited. So,
and check out Light Skin Opinions with me, Christopher Maddox, and Parrish Thompson, the dark skin producer.
What's that? Yeah, that's at our network too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we sometimes post.
Well, I was gonna say
we'll be back on the schedule next week. Hopefully.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. That's good. By the way, if the radio stations want to let any more people go, please do. We'll take them. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Another of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I can attest to this personally because they just threw out my traffic ticket for me. It was no problem, no points on the license, no other details that I had to deal with. You've got to check out the law firm of Seltzer Mayberg. You can find them at onecalllegal.com. That's onecalllegal.com, or call 1-855-5000-LAW, 1-855-5000-LAW. They handle cases including but not limited to car accidents, slip and falls, and of course traffic tickets. And they've got a new 15,000 square foot office, which we work out of at times as well, on I-95 in North Miami. They handle cases from all over the state. They got a special now. If you mention 5 Reasons or 5 on the Floor, they will take care of your traffic ticket for $49.95. Go check out that price somewhere else. You're not going to get it. Call now, 24/7 service for a free consultation. That's onecalllegal.com, 1-855-5000-LAW, Seltzer Mayberg.